What happens when you have a Mario Kart party at work and there's a contest and you need to have a trophy? You turn to 3D printing, of course. I'm Joel. This is 3D Printing Nerd. You know Mario Kart. It's that video game that most college kids back in my day played until late at night instead of studying for their classes. You could be Mario or Luigi or any character from the Mario universe and race. It's a lot of fun. But once you grow up and Mario Kart, rather than being something that you play with instead of studying, is actually something you play at work for a contest, you're going to need a trophy at the end. My friend Kristen and her coworker Sarah Beth work at a company called Boostability, and they have a Mario Kart competition at work where the winner is supposed to get a trophy. They don't have a trophy, but they have this really awesome Mario Kart shell. And they thought, well, we need a base for this. What could we put this on? Hey, we know Joel and he does 3D printing. Hey, Joel, they typed, could you design and print a trophy for this shell to sit on top of? I said, sure, I could do that. They sent me measurements of the shell and a picture, and it's very similar to this football. So we're going to base everything off of this football. They did send an example of what they thought might look cool, and it was a Lombardi trophy, of course, because I mean, when you're dealing with football, Lombardi trophy makes a lot of sense. But I didn't want it to copy the Lombardi trophy. I wanted it to be square rather than triangles, and I still wanted something to be able to sit at the top, and they want their logo on it. So let's turn to Fusion 360. Once you go to your computer and you open up Fusion 360, you have a blank workspace. So using the center rectangle, create on the ground plane a square that is 150 millimeters by 150 millimeters. The idea being, well, it's 25.4 millimeters per inch. I want it roughly 6 inches at the base. And so 150 millimeters, it's an even number, totally easy to work with. Do 150 by 150 on that ground plane. Once that's there, what you want to do is create an offset plane. That allows you to draw in another part of 3D space. So create the offset plane and choose 300 because you want it to be 300 millimeters away from the current sketch, and that'll be where the top rests. And on that plane, create a 100 by 100 center square. You're gonna center it on the origin. That's the easiest thing to do. And if we follow the 25.4 millimeters per inch convention, then 100 millimeters is essentially 4 inches. Once this is done, stop your sketch because now what you're gonna do is create a loft. Once you are in the interface for the loft, pick the top or the offset sketch, pick the bottom or the base sketch, and then hit OK. And that essentially creates a 3D shape through space, pulling from the one sketch to the next sketch. It's actually really cool. Now that you have this shape, pick a side, click on it, and then create a sketch. And the reason we do this is because we want to use that actual slightly bent side as our sketch plane rather than X, Y, or Z. Because everything was started off at origin, everything is centered. So what you're gonna do is create a very long rectangle starting above the object and going to below the object, and then it's gonna be 15 millimeters wide. Here's why we do this. I want this part to be centered, and so if we draw something on the center and bring it out, and then we mirror it to the other side, we get a very centered rectangle. Once that drawing has been done and it's been mirrored over to the other side to create a nice centered long rectangle, select all of the parts of that sketch and extrude it into the model so that it becomes a cut. And I did adjust the taper angle to -5 degrees. That's not something that you have to do, but I thought it would make the shape a little bit more interesting, and so I did it. Once you have that all set up, go ahead and hit OK, and you've now cut into the model with a very interesting shape on one side. How do you get it to the other side? Well, you're going to use what's called a pattern. So choose a circular pattern, and in the type you want to do features. And what's really cool is rather than clicking on something on your model, just move your mouse down to the timeline and click on that extrude that was a cut. So it's going to pattern that operation right there. You're going to change it to 2 from the default of 3, and then you're going to hit OK. And essentially what you've done is created a copy on the other side of the model. Pretty handy, right? All that's left to do now is bring in the logo. So I used Illustrator to trace the logo and create an SVG file. So once I insert the SVG, I'm gonna wanna do it on the side of the model. Again, because we want that model side to be our sketch plane rather than X, Y, or Z. Once the SVG of the logo is in, resize it to fit so that it fits nice, and center it as best as you can. I know there's probably a way to do this, but I got it centered as much as I could using my eyeballs, and it looked okay, and I went with it. So then hit OK. Now, similar to that really long rectangle, we're gonna do the same to this logo. So what you're gonna do is pick the 3 parts of the logo that you want to indent into the model, and then you're going to hit E for extract, and you're gonna drag them into the model 1 millimeter, let's say 1 millimeter. And the idea being you're just gonna cut in that logo and make it look kind of cool. Once that's done, just like before, what you're gonna do is pattern this to the other side, and you're going to set it to feature and click the operation on the timeline to copy and pattern that whole thing to the other side. Again, change that default number from 3 to 2, at least that's what I had to do, and then you're left with a logo on the other side. Easy peasy. Now the top is very flat, and we need it to be kind of concave a bit to accept a shell or a football or whatever. So create a sphere on the center and size it appropriately. And then what you do is you move it into place where you think the bottom of that sphere is going to carve out a nice concave shape from this model. Once you have that in place, choose Combine, and then the model on the bottom becomes the target and the sphere becomes the tool. Hit OK, and you're left with a concave cutout of the model at the top. That's the end of Fusion. Okay, awesome. Once that's done, you print it, and I printed mine on the Raise3D N2 Plus. I put some Magigoo on the bed, which held it down incredibly well. I did 215C on the nozzle, 62C on the bed. I believe I had a 2-shot Americano with caramel that day. I have 3 kids, a wife, 3 dogs. I'm very happy. I smiled a lot. I need a shave and a haircut. What's important to know with Magigoo, it holds really well, and once the model is done printing, the build plate is still hot. And if you try to move the model, it's not going to come off. You have to wait until the build plate cools all the way down. And once the build plate is cool, the model can just be lifted right off of the build plate with no tools necessary. Well, once it's out of the printer and it's done, it looks like this. How awesome is that? Look at that, that logo came out pretty good. Let's see if you can see that. There it is, look at that, there's that logo. That is the Boostability logo, and this is a trophy for Kristen and Sarah Beth and their company that they work for because they're gonna have a Mario Kart competition. Let's put the football on top. Let's see how that looks. That's perfect. Oh, that's perfect. I love this. Look at that. Oh, that's cool. Well, here, you know what? Since they don't have a football, they've got a shell. So let's try something here. All right, so here's the trophy base. Let's put Sean to the test because I know he's editing this. So let's put a Mario Kart shell right on top right there. Okay. Hey, look at that. It's a Mario Kart trophy. This is awesome. All right, how about a prize-winning watermelon? Look at that. This is a trophy for the Watermelon Growers Association of America for the tastiest watermelon. How about this? How about a Pokeball? All right, you are now the world-class trophy-winning Pokemon trainer. Congratulations to you. All right, how about this? How about a trophy for an OpenRC F1 championship? It's not working. Oh well, let's just use the real thing. Well, there we go. That is my take on a trophy for a Mario Kart competition at work. And really, if you're gonna have 2 winners, You should print 2 trophies. That's right. These trophies were printed. These are going to be going out. I'm going to ship them out later today. Just had to get the video done. Kristen, thank you for reaching out. Sarah Beth, thank you for reaching out. I appreciate you thinking of me when you wanted something like this. And I hope that my tutorial in Fusion 360 was something that you can follow along with. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. And if you do have a chance, I'd love to know, what sort of trophy would you make? And if you do make a trophy, please take a picture and tag me on the Twitters. I'm at Joel Telling. I'd love to see what you do. Thanks for watching. If you like what we do, support the channel by clicking any link down there in the description. It helps quite a bit. But beyond all that, don't forget to hug each other more. I love you guys, as always. High five.